1 more minute till we get started.
Exactly. It seems like people are also starting to join.
Super.
All right. I think we're good to go. What do you think, Adriana?
Yep.
All right.
It's exactly 00, so we can start.
Absolutely. All right. So welcome everyone. I'm Gabby Philippe, and today, together with the Women in Tech Alliance, an organization from south of Sweden, who has the purpose of bringing 1 million women to join and thrive in the tech industry. And that by 2030. I'm here with my colleague Adriana, AI lead from Mind IT, and we are here to bring some 45 minutes of inspiration and education. So going to the next one. Yes. So the next 45 minutes, we will get into the LLMs and how they are going to transform and the way we work, the way we communicate in nowadays. I think it's a lot to be said and a lot to be learned. So back to you, Adriana.
Thank you so much, Gabby, for introducing myself. I am super excited to be here with all of you, and I'm super excited to have a discussion about large language models. But before we jump in, I want to share a thrilling opportunity with you. We are hosting a giveaway at the end of this session. We are giving 3 exclusive hands-on sessions focused on AI and automation. So stay tuned until the end and you'll automatically be enlisted in our giveaway. You could be one of the 3 selected participants who will win free 2-hour workshops with us on AI. My colleagues will contact the winners sometimes next week. I don't have a specific day, but sometimes next week they will definitely contact you. So now let's get started. The agenda for today is split into 3 main topics. First, we are going to discuss about what are LLMs and why they are so popular right now. Second, we are going to give some real-world examples of LLMs usage and how they are impacting the business in terms of development, but also in terms of financial benefits. And third, we are going to present some practical tools and how you can easily get started with LLMs and with AI in general.
Yeah, and maybe what's good to remind everyone, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A, and we will try to follow along or have these questions addressed at the end. So yeah, ready to go.
Ready to go. So first I'm going to start with this only one slide about terminology because nowadays we hear a lot AI, machine learning, data science, and sometimes it is hard to understand where exactly do the large language models reside. So artificial intelligence in general covers all the tasks that used to be performed by humans and took a lot of time, and now they can be assisted or completely done using machines. But what is in artificial intelligence and not in machine learning, for instance, so only this red part, here are the systems based on predefined rules and logic that are not learning from data. Machine learning, on the other hand, this part without deep learning, so just the orange part, contains the algorithms that learn from data using methods like decision trees or support vector machines or clustering algorithms, but not involving deep learning algorithms, so without deep neural networks. Obviously, deep learning is the part that contains the algorithms specific to that are on top of deep neural networks. And here we have the generative AI, which is focused on generating new context and new content, sorry, and it also utilizes deep learning techniques. Here in the green part is where our large language models are situated. Very concretely, the large language models are not this entire bubble, it is just part of them. So just to set the ground correctly. And data science tackles all this, but it has some additional things like statistical algorithms and even data visualization are also under this data science bubble. So now that we have set the general ground, I think we can get started with the LLMs.
All right. So you explained what the terminology means, but what is an LLM?
So LLM stands for large language models, and this type of models are AI trained to work with human language. And here it is not just about understanding it, but being able to generalize it in a way that feels coherent and natural. So what makes the large language models so powerful is the transformer architecture. This one uses something called self-attention, which helps the model to understand how different words relate to each other, even across longer context. These models are trained on a huge amount of datasets from the internet, text datasets. And basically, you can think that it contains everything from Wikipedia and books to forums and code repositories. This training allows the large language models to perform a variety of tasks, and I am just going to mention a couple of them. So they can perform summarization, translation, they can answer questions, they can generate content, and they can even write code in your favorite coding language. Mine is Python, for instance, but everybody with its preference.
All right. Good. So how do they actually and why do they work so well, having such big volumes of data and so complicated mechanism behind?
It's a very good question. So I think it all starts with the scale. For instance, GPT-3 has been trained on almost all publicly available data set on the internet. And it has a huge amount of parameters, like 175 billion parameters, meaning that this model, GPT-3, which is not even the latest one, has seen more language patterns that most of the human beings will ever encounter. But frankly speaking, raw scale isn't enough. So what truly distinguishes these models from previous models is the transformer architecture, and especially that self-attention mechanism that I have mentioned before. The mechanism that allow to focus on all relevant words in a sentence, regardless of the distance. So it is like being able to hold an entire paragraph in the working memory and make me extract the meaning across it. But finally, why do LLMs work so well? Well, because, and this is the most exciting part for the business, they are able to generalize. So these models aren't single purpose tools with minimal instruction or sometimes without instructions at all. They can perform a wide range of tasks varying from email drafting to sentiment analysis to document translation or document summarization, and as I have mentioned, even Python coding.
Okay. Interesting. So how does it actually work, this whole transformer? What is that?
Yeah. Actually, this is the architecture that changed everything. Because before transformers, there were models like RNNs that processed words one by one, which, frankly speaking, made them slow and forgetful over long context windows, especially. But transformers process text all at once using the mechanism that I have mentioned before, self-attention. And this is helping them to figure out how each word relates to every other word in in the sentence or in the phrase. So more about the architecture, it contains two distinct pieces. Here in the left-hand side, we have the encoder piece of the architecture. This part is very much used in models like BERT that are focused on understanding. On the other hand, we have the decoder piece. The decoder piece is used in models like GPT, which is focused on generating text. And going a bit further, for instance, the encoder is built on top of three main parts. So it starts with the multi-headed self-attention. This part is specifically looking at all words in the input simultaneously and tries to find the relationships between them. And it moves further to the feed-forward network. The purpose of this is to apply the learned transformation in order to refine the text. And finally, it goes in the layer of normalizations and skip connections, which has the purpose of improving the stability and performance. On the other hand, if we want to look a bit deeper into the decoder part, it is built again from some components. It starts with the masked multi-headed self-attention. This part actually prevents the model from seeing in the future during the generation of the text, and it moves further to the cross-attention, which has the purpose of connecting the output that is generated with the encoded input. Plus, the feed-forward network and the normalization layer, which are very similar to what is happening in the encoder. But what makes this so powerful is not just these components. It is how they are stacked in layers. So this entire architecture is allowing the model to build up a deep understanding of knowledge with context and with relationships. Again, I don't want to give false expectations. It is not really able to think, but it is able to generate a meaningful context and meaningful sentences.
Okay, so thinking about the complexity and well, this has not been starting yesterday. Yeah, there is a nice timeline here. So why now? Why now we have the rise of the LLMs?
Right. So you're absolutely correct. It didn't started yesterday. It started a couple of years ago. Um, so there are three forces that are converging that can explain why LLMs are booming right now. So first, if you look here in this part, first we finally hit the right combination of architecture, data scale, and compute power. So the transformer model that I shown in the previous slide replaced the RNNs and CNNs in the language tasks. Then we saw that scaling these models, like concretely giving them more data and more parameters, kept improving the performance in unexpected ways. Secondly, if you look here, this technology became much more accessible. So nowadays, you don't need to build your own GPT-4. Um, Actually, it wouldn't be really possible for almost all of us to build alone a GPT-4 due to cost in the first spot. But it is not needed because you can use OpenAI's API, or you can even deploy open source models like Llama 3, for instance, on your own cloud or on your own machine. So On the other hand, the rise of frameworks like LangChain made integration fast. Sometimes for smaller applications, we are talking here about a couple of hours. And third, which is equally important, it's that enterprises realized that they could benefit in terms of return on investment right now. So it is not about investing now and see the results in the future. It is about some immediate results that can improve your activity. So whether we are thinking about customer queries or drafting reports or summarizing 100 pages documents, or I don't know, legal or report, depending on the activity of each company, the models can already do valuable work. So that's why we are calling this a revolution, because it is not just a hype, it is a shift in how companies think about productivity, about communication, and also about innovation.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And just I wanted to add here, because back when we were at explaining what's inside, what's the brain, what is the transformer, there's been a very interesting question here in the chat. Maybe it's good to take this now. Can we actually trust the output?
Yeah, it is indeed a good question. So you can trust the output up to a point. Obviously not fully. You can trust the output in terms of like general knowledge, but you should always check the information. And there are concrete things that you can do in order to make sure that your LLM application is not hallucinating, for instance. So one thing that you can do is to use RAG applications to give the LLMs a bit more context, more specific to your business, and so on. Then you can set feedback loops. So whenever your users see that, okay, this is not quite accurate, you should work a bit more to this application, they can give you a report similar to what GPT has with like or dislike, and you can revisit always the application based on feedback just to capture where it doesn't work quite properly. So you can trust, but with some limitations.
Good. Hope it answered the question. All right, so where do we start in the evolution? It's been a long time since this started, right?
It is, and it depends if we are looking only to the large language models that have been released, or we are looking to all underlying components. So if we are looking to underlying components, we can probably go back until 1950. But if we are talking about LLMs, what you can see here is a visual timeline of the evolution of large language models. And it all started around 2019 with the GPT-2 and early transformer-based models. And they are leading until very advanced models like GPT-4. So here at the top, I want to highlight T5 model that was released in 2020 by Google. And this was actually a major milestone because it introduced the idea that every NLP task can be framed as text-to-text problem. And this actually gave rise to models like MT5 here, also released by Google. This is for multilingual tasks, or to FLAN, which is fine-tuned for instruction following, and later on to FLANT5, which is widely used for general purpose prompting. Around the same time, so around 2020, Google released, OpenAI released the GPT-3, and GPT-3 was a super capable moment for that time. It was the first model that actually felt like conversation with a human. From there, we see a proliferation of other models released across various companies and across regions. Until 2023, when something very interesting happened, GPT-4 was released, and it added capabilities like multi-memory, chain of thought, reasoning, and better factual grounding. GPT-4 was not the only interesting model at that time. Also, we have to mention Claude, BART, Palm, and even Meta released Llama 2 and Llama 3 around the same years. But what I want to highlight with this evolution of LLMs diagram is that there is a split between the proprietary APIs like GPT or Claude. And on the other hand, there are open models. And nowadays, we have to remark that open models are increasingly capable. And this is super important because it opens the door for more flexible and private offline deployments, which is essential for business like finance, healthcare, and even governments, because they are super strict with their data and with the security around the data. And finally, another thing that I want to highlight is here in this area, the chart is showing that there is some acceleration. So new models are emerging faster than ever. Basically, every 2-3 months, we see a new benchmark, a new paper, a new capability is unlocked. Everyone is trying to beat the previous model.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to see how the frequency has increased, and then you see all the models kind of like having to create, in 3-4 months there is a new group, and it's yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It almost feels like you cannot keep the speed of reading the papers
Exactly.
behind all the new released models. Yeah.
So there are
So,
many of them. So does it mean that we can use one for everything?
no. So even if when we are trying to measure the preference of the users in terms of user feedback and preference tests, GPT-4 Turbo seems to be the king. And there are certain reasons behind this preference. This is the most trusted model, particularly because it balances reasoning and natural sounding responses. So there is a concrete reason for which it is preferred. However, if you need a longer context window, then probably you should go with Gemini's models. Here it is mentioned Gemini 1.5, but we already know that Gemini 2 is released. However, Gemini 1.5 is having a massive context window, so it supports around 2 million tokens. And this makes it the ideal model for processing and reasoning over long documents, like, I don't know, legal research and enterprise knowledge work. But we have mentioned GPT-4 a bit earlier, and we have to admit that the power becomes with associated costs. So, for instance, GPT-4 is the most expensive model. If you want to run it, it costs around $0.80 per 1,000 tokens. So you can use it, but with cautions and only if the output's quality surpasses the associated costs. Otherwise, if you have simpler tasks, probably you should go with, for instance, Llama 4, which is extremely low cost inference. And here we are talking about 0.0003. I cannot even count the zeros before that three. Yeah, 0003 dollars per 1,000 tokens. So it is a great choice if you are cost sensitive and if you want large scale deployments. However, if the speed is crucial, then O3 Mini is the fastest model with around 189 tokens per second. It is a great choice, particularly for chatbots and streaming applications. If you are in that situation, that's the go-to. And also GPT-4o here again, it's the least latency model. So it's extremely fast. It has a latency of 0.48 seconds, super fast. However, depending on the concrete project and concrete task that you want to work on, you can choose between them and, well, also other models. Here is not an extensive list with all the LLMs. And also you have seen one slide before how many there are, and we have only put it on the slide, the most important ones. So hard to keep up with the LLMs, and the takeaway is that before choosing the right LLMs, you have to think what is exactly your need and what are your restrictions also.
Yeah, I think it's good to mention another question, which is very specific to this explanation. So how should enterprises and developers evaluate the trade-off between cost and performance?
That's a super good question. So I think it first you have to evaluate your constraints, because this is guiding pretty much the range of models you have to look on. So if you are in one of those super sensitive industries like healthcare, finance, maybe you are working in a bank or in a government, well, you really have to decide if you can afford to use one of OpenAI's model. They are super secure, and they are providing on-prem setup, so you can have access to your own piece of cloud, and the data will not be shared. But if you feel like this is still risky, and it happens for very specific businesses, then probably you have to choose one of the models that are like kept locally, like Llama 3, for instance. And in terms of the trade-off with the performance, what we used to do for particular clients is that we have actually evaluated more models. So when you start a project, you don't know if it is good to go with Gemini or with OpenAI's models. You figure out later while testing. So I think the best thing to do is to start with small prototypes that are allowing you to really check how various models are performing on your tasks.
Okay, so the straightforward answer is really contextual. So you need to see what is the what you're trying to achieve, and of course, it's easy said, but more hard to be done when there are so many options and so many variables out there that you need to think about. But I think it's the first question is, what is the business value that you gain out of that? And what are the risks associated if, yeah, in different contexts you use, open source and so on. All right, good. We still have some more questions, but I think there will be some there will be some in the presentation that will be already answered. But let's see. So yeah, exactly. We go to the real life use cases, and let's dig into that.
Yeah, let's dig into that. So, a question that every business should ask is how LLMs are powering their business transformation. And when we talk about business transformation, we are not just talking about some flashy AI demos. We are talking about really enhancing the productivity, but super important, without compromising the quality. So first thing is the automation. LLMs are already handling things like summarization of the documents, responding to customer queries, generating internal reports, and they are actually doing this 24/7, so continuously. This leads to measurable gains in productivity and especially in the customer-facing operations. Secondly, the second pillar would be the decision support. So imagine that you could have an AI analyst that never sleeps, one that processes hundreds of pages and just let you know what are the three most relevant risks that are mentioned in one of the reports. So while this sounds amazing, this is the level of support that LLMs can offer right today. Something that I have to admit amazed me is that in terms of real world outcomes, 40% gain was recorded in productivity of the knowledge workers using LLM solutions. The 40% number amazed me, but on the other hand, we all know how much time is lost by trying to figure out if this paper or this paper or this paper contains the right information for us. So if an LLM can just summarize the key points, you discard plenty of resources from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think this ties a little bit also into some of the questions. So some of the customer use cases that are out there, like different industries. Maybe you can, just highlight some of these use cases per industry or groups.
Right. So this is actually where the theory meets the reality. So whether we are talking about a lawyer reviewing the contracts or a retailer uploading thousands of new products, LLMs are there to really support your work, to make your life easier. And as I have mentioned before, what is the most exciting is that these models are very, very adaptable. So we are talking about the same underlying technology, namely the ability to understand and generate language, but this can support different needs across very, very different sectors. So here in this slide, there are four types of general LLM capabilities around these use cases. So we are talking here about use cases related to automation. We are talking about chatbots, about reporting, and about content generation. And I'm looking at the time, and I am convinced that I cannot go through each of them, but I just want to highlight a couple of them. So, for instance, if we are thinking about automation, we can do something for financial services industry. So we can do something like automation compliance assistance, how they can support your business. Basically, they can read the regulatory reports, they can summarize them, they can help your team to speed up this process that I have to admit, sometimes it's a bit boring and it's hard to be followed end to end, and it is very time consuming, definitely. Um, this type of automation applies to other industries. Like for instance, in the healthcare and life science, you can use it for literature summarization because new medical articles are continuously released, and sometimes you don't have to read all of them, but you want to be up to date with the newest research. So an LLM can help you with the summarization. So you just pick the winner article and just study it. But another very, very popular use case, and I think this one is the easiest to start with, is the chatbot. So it can be used in almost every business. It can be used in financial services. So it can be just a nice robot in the corner of your web page. that is answering frequently asked questions about your products, your investment options, and so on. It can be also used in healthcare, like virtual health assistants, basically for common questions, not for very specific questions, because you don't want to leave your health in the hand of a chatbot. But at least the basic information can be supported with this. And yeah, chatbots are super helpful in retail services and e-commerce, because they can answer questions about inventory. They can guide the customers how to, I don't know, set a complaint or something like that. So yeah, so if you're wondering whether your industry can benefit from LLMs, the answer is definitely yes. But the only question that remains is, what is the most valuable starting point for you?
Exactly.
And this
And
is a
yeah,
question that you have to answer yourself somehow.
exactly. You touch a little bit on one of the questions that are right now in the chat, like how securely can LLMs be actually used in this kind of regulated industries like legal and finance and healthcare. And I think, well, the simple answer is what do you actually want to do if you want to have complex and very complex and the kind of tasks that you want to achieve and solve with. I guess it's a matter of how you design and how you deploy and how you govern the use of LLMs in these industries. But if there are like simpler tasks, then probably this is something that, but it again, back to, it really depends on the context and the type of need and the type of requirements that the industry and, well, the business has in general.
Yeah. And I think one of the 3 workshops that we are offering will really answer to these questions, more applied to your business, to be honest.
Yep.
Yeah. So we have discussed a lot about LLMs already. We have tackled a bit some use cases, but what does it mean in terms of numbers? So maybe the most important number from this diagram that we are seeing right now is this one. So AI and LLMs benefited globally of investments of $500 billion. This is huge. So uh, never before it was invested so much money in so little time for a technology, unless it was critical. But in general and in normal context, this is absolutely huge number, amazing. And it is super correlated with the enterprise adoption, because nobody would invest money just, I don't know, without any reason. And what is expected by the end of 2025, so just a couple of months in the future, is that over 90% of the Fortune 500 companies will adopt, in a way or another, LLM-based solutions. A number that is already present with us is this 30%. 30% of the business marketing is already done with the support of large language models. And it is not like your marketing colleagues are using LLMs directly, so they are doing more than just discussing with ChatGPT, but there are concrete tools that are widely used, and those tools are constructed on top of large language models. So they are basically enhancing the activity in terms of speed and possibly in terms of quality. In terms of legal efficiency, and this is quite amazing, 60 to 80% reduction in legal research time, exactly in the manner which I presented below. So instead of you reading hundreds of pages of legal documents, an LLM is extracting you the most important information, basically reducing the amount of time that you are spending with this type of duty. And in terms of healthcare, because we have discussed quite a lot about it, it is expected that by 2030, approximately 25% of the compound annual growth rate will be due to the utilization of large language models. So quite impressive numbers, I would say. It seems like the LLMs are almost everywhere present. Yeah, it became strategic. It is not anymore a hype.
I believe it's part of our everyday work. So yeah, sometimes you probably not even notice it. So
Yeah.
I think we're kind of like getting to the last part of the presentation, and there are a few questions related to what kind of examples of chat box that actually works in different customer support, like choices for the customer support, or what is the easiest way to start with a project and begin with having a small project with LLM. So I guess this well, what comes next is
What?
probably answering these questions. So yeah.
Exactly. So here we are focusing on some practical ideas about how to start. And obviously we are presenting some practical tools. So these tools from this slide and from the next slide are lowering the entry barrier for everyone that is looking to build a large language model application. So nowadays, happily, you don't need a PhD or a GPU cluster to get started. You just need the right tool to do the right job. And that's it. And the first tool that I am mentioning here is Hugging Face. It is super popular and it is the place where most of the people are starting exploring with LLMs. It covers the general tasks like sentiment analysis, translation, summarization, question answering, and code generation. It is not the best for code generation, but it is one of the options. However, this one is ideal for rapid experimentation and fine-tuning. And it is ideal if you are thinking about your data science or machine learning engineering teams or any other teams that are in general exploring LLMs in notebooks or in apps. But if you want to make LLMs understand your PDFs, maybe you want to derive context out of your internal PDFs or spreadsheets or proprietary data in general, then Llama Index should be your choice. Llama Index is able to support you to build your retrieval augmented generation applications. So it is the go-to tool for enterprise knowledge integration. This is where you start with your chatbot, for instance. But if you want to build dynamic workflows, in general, something that involves memory APIs, decision making in any way, then LangChain here is the golden standard. So it is able to support you in building agentic workflows, and it is excellent for prototyping basic workflows with decision making. So super useful tool. I'm also going to talk a bit about OLAMA and Llama files. Usually they are presented together, even if they are doing a bit different tasks. So Olama is running language models in your private environment. So basically, Llama is the easiest way to run powerful LLMs on your laptop or on your internal server or in general on your internal setup. What Llama file does? Well, Llama file is supporting you to deploy LLMs on any type of device. Why is this important? Well, because Llama file is basically the fastest way to get working an LLM into someone else's machine. So you don't need any particular dependency. It's just run and play.
And this is super exciting. However, we have 1 minute actually left, and
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone is super interested to know what should be some basic few steps of starting with this, knowing about these tools and that they're available out there. So how would someone start?
So there is no recipe for all the companies, but in general, we are thinking about applications, AI applications, in terms of 5 main steps. So always identify the repetitive task. You have to think about those tasks that are almost feeling like copy paste with variations. If one of your tasks is falling into this category, then it is a good use case. After that, you have to select the right tool or the right APIs. And back to the discussion, it is not possible to select exactly the tool, but at least narrow down a bit your choices, right? So again, to the discussion about private versus public and so on. After you have the right task and the right tools, you have to start a pilot project. While everybody wants to aim for super huge projects that are revolutionizing their industry or their company, you have to start from somewhere. And sometimes people have this tendency of, compromising the time for perfection. So it is better to just start with a pilot project, have an MVP, and then scale it to a full product rather than just waiting to have all the pieces set together. Nevertheless, as any other tool, the AI applications have to go through an iterative process. So just select a couple of people to test your tool, to give honest feedback, and implement the feedback, right, in order to achieve the accuracy that you are aiming for. And if all these steps have been successfully completed, it looks like you are ready to go with the full-scale integration, because LLMs, like any other tools, are most valuable when they are embedded in the workflow, in the day-to-day jobs. And Gabby mentioned something super nice before. In the most successful applications, you don't even know what is powering that application. You know that it is working. And this is how it should be. You don't have to see the LLM. You have to use a functional application.
Nice. Thank you so much. I think there is one more thing to think about when it comes to a small project or the starting project of working with LLMs on your own. And maybe you just want to name what would be some success points before we actually finish.
Yeah. So as there is no recipe that works for everybody, still we have some points that have to be checked in order to increase your chances of having a functional and useful application. So the most important point is to start with a pilot project. If you are starting with a pilot project, basically you are increasing with around 30% the chances to get a successful project. Why? Because if it doesn't work in pilot phase, you don't have to invest more funds into, engaging a bigger team or something like that. Secondly, sorry, don't forget that the integration is the one that actually ensures the real adoption. Nevertheless, and this is sometimes disregarded, is to train your team. And most companies have the tendency to think about technical teams, but actually, no. Technical teams obviously have to be trained, but non-technical people also have to be trained in order to understand the limitations, because if a team doesn't understand the limitation, that team cannot use effectively the product, can over rely on it, can fail in some tasks, and can get the conclusion that the tool was not useful or was wrongly built. The feedback loop that we have mentioned before, and something super important is to visualize your LLM workflows. Why? Because if something is going wrong, if something breaks, you have to identify the piece where it is broken. But if you don't know, if you don't have the clear vision how the data are passed between the systems, you may encounter a problem to isolate the bug and to fix it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I think the overall is there is a lot out there also to digest, but maybe one step is to actually start.
Yes.
Start and try and get more into it. I think we're quite over time, and it seems like people are still engaged in being here. So thank you so much. Before we go, there are a few things. There is a form in the chat which we very much like to ask you to fill it in. It's just 1 minute, and it will also give us the proper, way forward for the next sessions. And of course, we also want to encourage you to look and check. And I have already looked at all the questions. More or less, all of them have been answered during the session. And if there is something missing, we will do a review and try to come back. Next week. So I think that's it. Thank you so much, Adriana. It's been a very insightful session for a Friday afternoon, or depending on the time zone, and very insightful and very, very interesting and appealing to maybe start trying out, do something and use it with more consciously.
Thank you so much, Gabi, and thank you to everyone that took the time to join this call. And please keep in mind that we are always here to support. So if you have further questions, just reach out anytime, and we will be there to answer.
Thank you. Have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.